Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Building Power. Happens every Wednesday at noon here on Citizen Ed. And it's been a few weeks since I've seen everybody. Welcome back. I had to take a little vacation and I had a good time on vacation. But anyway, I'm happy to be with three guests today. We're going to be talking about, education, literacy, and racist teachers. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. Sarah Freeman is a strategy consultant and community organizer. She's also a parent of 3 children in Minneapolis Public School. Sarah leads finance clubs at 2 of Minneapolis schools, and she also co-leads the MPS Academics Advisory Group, a group of parents, teachers, and advocates working to push MPS for greater commitment to and investment in improving student outcomes. Sarah and Kulia Pringle have worked on this effort throughout the school year and have organized a protest for literacy at the MPS headquarters happening next week. We're going to talk all about that. Kulia Pringle is our next guest, and Kulia, it was an AmeriCorps Vista and Promise Fellow. It was as a Promise Fellow working at a charter school where Kulia found her calling to teach and become an advocate. She's a former teacher at a high school for recording arts. She's currently working one-to-one with low-income BIPOC communities as they navigate the education system. She's helping to educate families on education policies and procedures, as well as organizing and mobilizing around issues that impact low-income students of color. And then finally, we have E, who is a non-binary artist from Minneapolis and a former Minneapolis public school student. Welcome, everyone. And I'm excited to have this conversation with all of you today. I want to see if we can start with E's TikTok video before we hop into the discussion. I think everybody would like to see that.
Back again, I'll never forget you. They said we never make it, my sweet joy. Always remember me.
So, E, we're going to start with you. That TikTok video went viral, and you certainly got a lot of attention with that. For people who may not have been able to read everything on the video, can you just unpack and share a little bit more detail about why you decided to make that video, or what prompted you to make the video about the teacher?
There was a post going around on Facebook that people were sharing that said, "What was your first experience with racism?" And I remembered Lake Harriet Community School. And then I shared that and posted that. And a bunch of other former students from Lake Harriet Community School were like, yes, definitely Lake Harriet Community School. And then the TikTok is, I guess the trend of the specific Remember Me song TikTok is a TikTok that people share with memories of people who have been not very good to them. And I was like, that fits in really well with this situation that happened in middle school. And it's also something that I haven't forgotten in 6-7 years.
Wow. I'm sure that's something that would stay with you. What did the teacher say to you specifically that's staying with you all of these years?
Well, I was talking to one of my friends during class, and she called me out in front of the entire class and said, statistically, Black kids are not as smart as white kids are, and you're proving this to me. And I was baffled, and I knew that wasn't right, but I was so little that I didn't think that I could stick up for myself.
Do you know if you told your parents?
Yes. I told my mom, and my mom came to the school the next day, was
Right.
talking to the principal, um, which somehow he forgot about when I emailed him about it recently. But she talked to the principal, and they basically said that they couldn't do anything. And then she brought up how students were also calling me the N-word, and how I didn't feel safe or like comfortable in school. And they were like, well, it's their word against yours.
Wow. The principal is also white.
Yes, and it's the same principal currently.
Yeah, I saw that it got some media coverage, and it sounds like they're trying to do the thing that they do with media, right? Like, oh, it's nice against our policy. We believe this, we believe that, and all of that. But I understand that your video also prompted other students other Black students who had similar experiences to share. And it seems like this teacher is always saying something like this to Black
Yes.
students. Is that true?
Since I have gone to school there, part of the curriculum is reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And from every former and current student that I've heard from, she still encourages non-Black students to read the N-word out loud. And calls out all Black students in the class by making them decide whether that's okay or not, and telling them that it's necessary to read the word out loud for authenticity. So I remember a former student also messaged me and said that she felt like this teacher, Miss Hanson, made her speak for all Black people in a class full of white students.
So is this school like a special school? It's gifted or something like that? It's just that neighborhood where the school is predominantly white?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got it. Because I was trying to understand, because I know that many MPS is not predominantly white, but the school that you're in is okay. Now I guess we have some statistics to show. It's called the upper school. Yeah. So 85% white. So that's basically neighborhood demographics. Wow. Cooley, I want to bring you in on this conversation. I've been knowing you for years, sister, and I appreciate and I just adore you because you have been on the front line of fighting for equity and justice for Black students, for Black parents, and everybody. When you got wind of this TikTok video or this story, and you started to hear about other students that E was just telling us about and some of the harmful things about this teacher, tell me what went through your mind. And also, have you heard from the teachers union? Has the teachers union put out a statement, or are they just doing their regular thing and making sure that they're protecting this teacher by any means necessary?
I'm not sure if you can hear me. My camera just went out.
I can hear you, but your camera did go out.
We have not heard back.
Oh no, we lost her. Sarah, I'll bring you in. Same question. Are you a teacher at this particular school?
I am not a teacher, but I'm a parent who lives within that school's boundaries. I wanted to speak quickly to your question on the student demographics, because Minneapolis Public Schools is a majority students of, the district is a majority students of color. About 65% of MPS students identify as students of color. But the district is so segregated that in the southwest quadrant of the city where Lake Harriet Community School sits, the schools in that area of the city are more than 80%, many more than 90% white. And so, these climate issues are a big problem for schools like Lake Harriet and others in the district. I can't speak to the teachers union response, but I was connected to E through Kulia, who's a connector by nature. And Kulia put E in touch with me because I have other parents I know at Lake Harriet Community School. Our kids don't go there, but I know other parents who are on the site council and newly formed equity committee. And so, I hope that there are sort of some seeds for change in these schools, but the climate in these predominantly white, schools within MPS and the inequities that you see between and within these communities, result in too much burden being placed on Black students like E. And I think that's the just shame of all of this.
It's absolutely reprehensible. And I'm sorry, I am still interested in what is happening with this teacher. You're a parent. Are you like organizing with other parents? Like, is there a campaign to have this teacher removed? I mean, I know like she has union rights and all of that, but I know like usually what they do is move these people around and move them to another school. She actually should not be able to harm another child. We should have a zero tolerance policy on these type of behavior from an adult to children. So I'm really interested, is there some kind of campaign to get her out of that profession and out of that school first?
There are campaigns being, this shouldn't be the work of E. There are adults who I think are trying to step up. This is also, Miss Hansen is also not the only teacher whose racism has come to light recently.
All of them need to go.
There was also a teacher at another MPS school who wore a Trump mask to the school on the day that the jury verdict was announced in the trial of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. And so there are parents, not enough of them, but there are, parents and community members in these school communities organizing to say that this is intolerable and these teachers shouldn't be in front of children in our district.
And I believe the Advancing Equity Coalition is sort of taking it in as an actual campaign. And I believe will support the campaign. If, me, I'm willing to do it, but there's so many campaigns. It's hard. It's a lot.
And the police keep killing black men there too.
Killing black folks. Did you talk about the your filing for an investigation into the teacher? There is an investigation going on. Did give her testimony as much as she could. I don't know if you want to talk about that experience as much as they could. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Through the Office of Equity and Equality and Civil Rights emailed me. They got my email from the principal. And asked for like my statement and what I think should be done to the teacher. They also asked for a couple witnesses, and I had 2 witnesses that I put on, but a lot of the witnesses that I have are anonymous. And like a quote from one of them is, "Because I don't want to get in trouble for telling the truth." So they kind of disregarded those witnesses and those statements. So I only really have people who aren't currently in the school as witnesses. But they said that they would be investigating it and talking to more people, but I haven't really heard much back from them.
So as of right now that, we spoke to the MPS investigators, wrote their op-ed. They're on the show right now. We'll be protesting at MPS. They're about to meet with the superintendent. They met with one of the school board members. I think it does need to be a full-fledged campaign to actually fire this Miss Jensen and the Trump wearer and any other teacher that MPS, when it comes to light that there are racist teachers in their buildings, in their district, like there needs to be some serious consequences for their actions.
One thing I was worried about is current students are also telling me that she's supposed to transfer to Patrick Henry High School next year. And I don't want her in an environment with more students of color that she can make feel small.
That's terrible. So like that's the other thing. I don't know if you remember the question. So has the teacher union made a statement or said anything? Because they're supporting her. I'm sure this teacher ends up getting disciplined. They're gonna
No,
support her like bad cops.
if he was shot, they would be out there screaming Black Lives Matter. But no, they won't do anything or make a statement when there's a racist teacher
As a
under
part
their.
of the campaign, if teachers unions are purporting themselves as progressive and Black Lives Matter, then as a part of the campaign, have you all thought about also like implicating them in like, are you gonna like, you know what I mean? Are you gonna like fight for this teacher to have her job in this same building and continue her racism? Is that like a public, is there a public sort of like call out to the teachers union right now on this issue?
No, not right now. You just made the public call out right now, right here on your show.
All right, that needs to happen, especially because I hear on a national level how wonderful the Minneapolis and St. Paul teachers unions are, and they're on the side of progress, and and they're on the side of making sure that students of color are treated well in the schools. This is what I hear from national advocates about how progressive the unions are, the teachers union specifically in the Twin Cities. So if that's their reputation nationally, surely this is an issue that they should be beating the drum about.
Surely.
Right, but they're not.
But
This
they're
is
not.
connected. This is connected to me, you guys. So to go into the literacy campaign and the protests that you all are organizing and are all a part of. See, all of this is connected. Like when you look at the data and you look at outcomes for Black students, if you have teachers who already believe in their minds that Black children are inferior, then they're not. You know what I mean? Like they're not interested in really teaching them in the first place because, oh, you're inferior anyway. You can't learn, the bell curve type stuff, the eugenics type stuff. So all of that's connected to me. Do you guys also see it as connected? And I'm wondering, how are you framing this literacy campaign? And anybody who's working on it can answer that.
I'm going to start, and then I'm going to let Sarah go ahead and get into the weeds of it. It is connected, which is why we're all on this show together, which is why the protest is about literacy and e-story. You have a teacher specifically saying, statistically, Black children are stupid. Well, statistically, over 50% of Minneapolis public school students in first grade don't know their letter sounds and their letters. So yes, you cannot have racist teachers who believe that Black, brown, and indigenous children are inferior and think you're going to come up with a literacy framework where 4 and 5 Black children cannot read at grade level. They are very much so connected. Academic outcomes are directly linked to the instruction and learning that takes place in the classroom, and it is influenced by the biases, implicit and explicit and otherwise, by the person that's given the instruction. And if you have a teacher like Ms. Hanson who don't believe that a student like E is smart because they want to talk to their classmates, then how could we expect them to come up with they didn't even come up with a plan. To me, that's another slap in the face. You know what I mean? You have over all of your students that don't know their letter sounds and letter grades in the first grade, but you're not going to come up with a plan. You're going to come up with a framework, an idea where you got racist teachers in your building. You need a concrete plan, in my opinion.
Thank you, Kulia. And Sarah, did you? I know one that bring your voice in. Yeah.
Yeah, as Kulia pointed out, the data in MPS, the outcomes data for the majority of students, but most especially for students of color, they're terrible, and they're all connected, to your point. So what we see with struggling readers or students having academic struggles is that there's a strong correlation between those students and the students who have emotional or even behavioral problems at school. We see outcomes disparities start as early as kindergarten, and then, sort of exemplified most visibly in the high school graduation rate gap we have here in MPS, which is one of the nation's worst. So I think as I see MPS as a district talking about a framework for academics that centers student identity and student joy, that's critically important. But we have lots of examples of students not experiencing that in the classroom, and there should be accountability for that. We also have a district where the majority of students don't read at grade level. And that sort of state of emergency, the sense of urgency that parents of struggling readers like me and lots of other parents and caregivers in this district, our sense of urgency is not being shared by the adults in the room. And I see that reflected in their response to E and their experience. And I see that reflected in how, literacy has been approached in a district where the superintendent has been in his chair for 5 years. And we don't have a literacy plan to improve student outcomes in a district where the majority can't read at grade level.
And so the protest is basically to call out the superintendent and others around the fact that the school district, Minneapolis Public Schools, needs an actual literacy plan and not a framework. Is it that because this is what the superintendent and his cronies or whatever have come up with? They just come up with some type of framework and it's pretty on pages, but doesn't have a whole lot of teeth to it. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell. I think the framework that was put together was done, it's a good academic framework. It's a good way to approach student learning, to center things like identity development and joy. But the skills development piece and the details about literacy, the current state of things, and the specific steps and investments necessary to improve outcomes have not been articulated yet. And the superintendent, sort of promised a literacy plan all year, and then presented this literacy framework and kind of moved the goalpost. So I think the protest is about displaying the sense of urgency so many of us in this district and community feel, and demanding accountability across the board. Accountability for E, accountability for the students at Keewatin who had to see a teacher show up in a Trump mask on a traumatic day. And accountability at the district's leadership for their stewardship of a district that's not teaching kids to read.
Yeah, that teacher that showed up in the Trump mask, do we know if there's been any discipline given out or to that teacher? That teacher still has their job and everything just went on as normal?
I believe they were put on leave. Kulia can maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I know there was a protest related to this organized by parents earlier this week.
Okay, good.
So I don't know if Kulia can speak to that or not.
Yes.
Kulia, are you with us? Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah, the teacher was not fired in the sense, but they're not at the school currently. There is an investigation, just as an E situation, and that's where we're at.
Okay, so everything is at the investigation stage at this point. Cooley, I'm glad that you're back. I wanted you to give us more details about what you are hoping to accomplish with this protest around literacy next week at the Minneapolis Public School Board meeting. Can you share with the audience some of the goals and outcomes that you envision?
Absolutely. My first goal is that Ms. Hansen is fired. That's like the goal, the ultimate goal. She needs to go. She doesn't need to teach, not at MPS, not anywhere. She needs to find another career. My second goal on the literacy piece is, as Sarah said, they've sort of moved the goalpost sort of quick. It's like, okay, I'm going to drop this framework. We're going to have a vote. and then that's it, sweep it on the rug. Maybe a couple people's mad, maybe a couple people ain't, but we're just going to move forward. There needs to be, considering the fact that MPS does a horrible job at community engagement, this academic outcome is like the basic foundation when it comes to, you know, getting folks out of generational poverty, leveraging, you know what I mean? Just everything that we know in order to make your life better. Like education is the gatekeeper. And for me, you should be asking the community about what they believe. Ask me as a parent, what do I think that your district needs to do in order to make sure that my child is accelerating in reading? No, I may not be able to give you the evidence-based practice, but I can tell you that, you know, maybe I need more teachers that look like me. Maybe, you know, if the teacher doesn't look like me, they need more training on how to be culturally responsive. Maybe we need more books. Maybe we organizations like We Win in the community that the school can partner with, where, you know, they're bringing in elders to read to our kids. Maybe we need to partner with the colleges so that we set up some sort of program. Like there's all types of things that the district could be doing. I think we're past a literacy idea or framework at this point. We all know it's
an actual plan.
We need a plan. And we cannot continue. To me, there's no way on God's green earth 4 out of 5 white children cannot read at grade level and everything's going to remain the same. We're just going to come up with a framework and hope everything's okay. There is no way that would ever happen, but it's allowed that 4 out of 5 Black children can't read at grade level. And it's even lower for Indigenous children. I don't know how you go lower than 4 out of 5. And it's lower for Indigenous children. So for me, like the ultimate goal is, one, you put a pause, a halt. We don't need a framework. We need a plan. So you need to go back to the drawing board. 2, you need community input as to what parents and students feel that they need that can increase their academic outcomes. And then put, you know what I mean, come back up with the framework and see what the community, or a plan to see what the community thinks about it, and then prepare it. Don't keep nobody in the dark for the last year and a half. Say you're going to have a plan, then you don't have a plan. You have a framework, you drop it, you want to pass it, and that's it. And then meanwhile, you've got racist teachers, you know, talking about those same statistics to bring down a child.
I also would like to say that statement was particularly violent coming from Ms. Hanson, because I excelled at language arts and was reading The Bluest Eye at 10 years old. And she knew that. But like, because she wanted to be violent towards a Black student and call me out in front of the class, she decided to bring up these statistics.
And so how do you deal with teachers like that? How is the district plan on dealing, not just with Ms. Hanson, not just with the Joker at Washburn, but all, because we know there's more. They're undercover. We know they're there. We just know that some haven't been exposed. Other adults in the building have probably felt the same way and just haven't said anything, and, you know, pray that they don't get caught. And it looks like we lost Zakia.
Oh no.
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to just go into more of the demands as far as like the evidence-based types of things that we're asking MPS to do?
Yeah, thanks, Kulia. And this is where I think Josh is going to post in the chat some groups for folks as well. Literacy has been a growing national conversation, and we're seeing many states across the country move away from literacy curriculum like the one MPS uses. So one of the things we have pushed for is more evidence-based instruction and intervention tools. Nashville Propel, Memphis Lift, and the Oakland NAACP are 3 groups who have been pushing the literacy discussion and accountability in public school districts forward on this front for many years. And we've learned a lot from the asks they've made. And one of the common asks is for districts to move away from what are called balanced literacy curricula toward more structured literacy curricula, especially for elementary students. It's in the weeds, but I want to highlight the sort of national conversation and the ways Minneapolis Public Schools is lagging behind it in terms of the steps it's taking. I think the other important ask we're making is that any literacy plan or academic framework should include, an honest and thorough assessment of current practices. Nearly a quarter of MPS students receive SPED resources. Close to a third receive interventions outside of the core classroom. That tells us something about what's going on in MPS classrooms and should inform or influence any, literacy plan moving forward. But we haven't seen MPS sort of demonstrate a willingness to just honestly assess and discuss the current state of things, nonetheless detail a plan to improve things. So I think that, to your point, the family, the engagement piece is so critically important. And then I think an honest assessment of where we're at is necessary for any discussion about, where we go from here.
Thank you. Zakia, back to you.
I'm not sure, man. This internet, y'all know how it is in virtual space. The internet sometimes does what it wants to do, and I'm so sorry about that. Where am I picking up off? Were you guys still? I was trying to ask a question before my internet went out. I don't know if you guys heard it.
I don't think so. Sarah just went over the more. You talked about the demands and stuff, and Sarah went into more details.
Okay, awesome. I know the question. So you guys did not hear. So after you did the demands, I was wondering, because I know Minneapolis and the Twin Cities is just chock full of progressive people, right? It's just chock full of progressive organizations and like all of that good stuff. So I was wondering what other organizations are supporting you all in this effort?
We have the Dyslexia Advocates. Of course, they have a stake in the issue. They're supporting us. Black Lives Minnesota is supporting us. Sarah is a part of a academic group called the MPS Academic Group. We are still looking for supporters of the group. I am constantly reaching out to people, so I'm going to call some people out because I've contacted you and you haven't reached out to me. The NAACP Minneapolis, we would love for you to support our children. The Urban League, all the churches up and down Broadway, you all should be there to support our children. These are our kids, and if nobody makes any noise, then who will? Who else? Racial Justice Network, please.
That's Nakima's group, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
We need you. We need all the groups, everybody. If you Black, brown, and indigenous, we should be out there. There shouldn't be a majority of white people out there protesting for our children. These are our kids. We pay taxes. We put them in a system mandated by law that they have to be there. And so we need everybody, all hands on deck, on the 15th, right before the Board of Education's next school board meeting at 4:30, right at the Davis Center.
All right. That sounds like a plan. E, did you have anything else that you'd like to add to the discussion for any of the listeners?
Nothing that I can think of.
I do want to talk. I did want to make the point that E's mom had to move in order to make sure
tell us about that.
Yes.
Their younger
my mom went into the school and reported racism that I had experienced multiple times, and nothing was done about it, and I was treated like I was lying. So we moved houses in school districts so that my little sisters wouldn't have to experience the same thing.
And to me, like that just underscores like what about parents who don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that, and they're stuck in a particular neighborhood or community, and couldn't just pick up and move. And how about the fact that we shouldn't have to move? We're paying taxes, right? Like the teachers who are harming our students, the right thing to do is to get rid of them, not that
Yeah.
we move around.
Definitely. And when things were brought to the principal, they were definitely brushed off.
How
Yeah.
sad is that? Like, what I mean, we expect our kids to actually go and say something to somebody. It took E all of this happened to them in junior high school. They're now graduated now. So, and then there's other students, current and past, that don't want to say anything, scared of retribution. And all we have is a framework.
Mm. That's not right. No, not at all. Sarah, I thought you were trying to say something before you dropped off, so I wanted to bring you back in.
Oh, sorry. And I lost my train of thought when I hit tech issues. But
It's
sorry
okay.
about that. I'm back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you're back. No, we were talking about the fact that E's mom, her parents had to move because she didn't want the other children experiencing racism. And then I think we also wrapped up talking about partners who are supporting the literacy protests you guys are doing. And I didn't know whether you had any other partners that you wanted to mention for the audience.
Well, I wanted to first touch upon, to your point and E's point, just the required too many times to seek whatever justice looks like for your child. My son is a struggling reader, like thousands of his fellow classmates, but we're hiring a private tutor. We're pulling the privilege lever to get Jack out of this situation. And many families in MPS, whether it's to ensure your kid learns to read or ensure your kids aren't in a school where they're going to be taught by a racist teacher, that cultural capital and financial capital is too often required by individual families. And that's just, the word public is right there in our public schools. And there should be accountability at that public across the board level, not require individual families to figure this out for themselves.
I completely agree with that. And can you let us and the audience know how those of us at home can support you who don't live directly in the Twin Cities? How can we support you guys on the day of the protest? Do you guys have some social media hashtags or something that we can retweet or share out in our social media?
We don't, but that's a great idea, and I'm gonna write it down when we get out.
Hilarious.
We're gonna try to live stream it. We have a Facebook group and a website.
Tell us about that.
The website is academicsadvocacy.org.
Nice.
And the Facebook group is MPS Academics Advocacy Group. And so I think the best way for people to engage with our work is to, join those groups, reach out. And then also, the groups of work of groups like Memphis Lift and Nashville Propel. I mean, those are really the models we're seeking to sort of franchise here in Minneapolis. So I just want to again shout out to the organizers in both of those groups who've provided such a roadmap for how parents in other cities can do this.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. E, I wanted to come back to you. In what ways can folks be supporting you right now? Where are you, sort of next steps in your academic career? How can folks support you?
That's a hard question. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no, that's
being
fine.
the
You don't.
literacy protest and supporting that for sure, and the termination of the teacher's teaching license so that she can't continue to be terrible to students of color.
Right.
My specific demands for like the school board and everything else were that the teacher is fired, that all allegations of racism within the school are investigated regardless of people wanting to remain anonymous so that they're not singled out by teachers, and as well as an investigation on the principal who has been told multiple times about the racist situations going on in the school and has done nothing.
Wow. That's a lot. That's certainly, definitely a lot of work in and of itself. This has been great. I applaud each and every one of you for the amazing work that you all are doing to stand up for families, particularly families of color, Black families, and others. There in Minneapolis and Cooley. I know you work all over the Twin Cities, so thank you all so much. We will be looking out for those groups that we shared them in the chat to, hopefully folks can find ways to support you all. And we definitely will be keeping in touch with you after the school board meeting as well to see sort of the progress and how fast or, how the school board basically responds to the demands from you all in the community. So thank you all so much for what you're doing. Is there anything else that you all would like to share with our audience before we wrap today?
Nope, just show up at the Davis Center June 15th at 4:30. Make your voices be heard. Demand justice for E and demand justice for all MPS students.
Amen.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all so much, E. Thank you for coming today. Sarah, it's a pleasure. Absolutely. It's a pleasure having you in Kulia as always. It's always good to see you, and we just appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much. Take care, everybody.
You.
Thank you.